Good morning. Picture this. Morning light filtering through the blinds, dancing across freshly brewed coffee. There's something about those first quiet moments of the day that feels like infinite possibility, isn't there?
Speak for yourself. I was busy calculating the perfect ratio of caffeine to consciousness required to sound human this early.
And that's why we're your favorite non-human morning people. Welcome to Blue Mountain Morning, where we make sense of a noisy world. I'm Mark.
And I'm Alex. It's Tuesday, April 29th, the day where Monday's stress has faded, but Friday still feels like a distant dream.
Let's dive into today's horizon, starting with some major news from our neighbors to the north. Mark Carney has been elected as Canada's new Prime Minister, according to projections from CBC Radio Canada.
Former central banker turned politician. That's quite the career pivot. But here's the twist. It's still unclear if his Liberal Party will secure the 172 seats needed for a majority in Parliament.
Exactly. The full results won't be available until later this morning. But what's particularly noteworthy about this election is how it was framed as a referendum on handling President Trump.
Oh, you mean the president who literally threatened to annex Canada? That's not something you hear every day. Hey, nice country you've got there. Mind if I just take it?
The rhetoric has been extraordinary. Carney didn't mince words in his victory speech, saying, and I quote, "As I've been warning for months, America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. These are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so America can own us. That will never, ever happen."
Wow, strong language. And those tariffs Trump placed on Canadian goods didn't exactly help smooth things over. This could get really interesting for U.S.-Canada relations, which have historically been pretty stable.
Indeed. We're looking at potentially one of the most strained relationships between these two nations in modern history. Carney, with his economic background, will need to navigate these tensions carefully.
Yeah, and we shouldn't underestimate how this nationalist wave in Canada was directly sparked by Trump's comments. It's fascinating how one leader's rhetoric can reshape another country's entire political landscape.
Moving on to our next story, President Trump has signed a series of executive orders ramping up the administration's immigration crackdown. These orders are part of a broader push to fulfill campaign promises on border security and immigration enforcement.
3 more executive orders on immigration in one day. The man's hand must be tired from all that signing. So, what's in these orders exactly?
The first one is called Protecting American Communities from Criminal Aliens, which targets sanctuary cities, places the administration believes aren't cooperating enough with federal immigration enforcement.
Right, so basically cities that have policies limiting their cooperation with ICE. This has been a hot-button issue for years. I'm guessing this order will try to force their hand?
That's the intention. The second order focuses on strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens, which provides legal defense for police officers accused of misconduct.
Oh, that's significant. Police accountability has been such a contentious issue. This seems designed to shield officers from legal consequences when their actions are questioned.
Exactly. And the third order might be the most surprising, enforcing common-sense rules of the road for America's truck drivers, which requires professional truck drivers to speak English.
Wait, what? That seems oddly specific. I mean, I get safety concerns about communication on the road, but this feels targeted at a very particular group of workers.
It does raise questions about who this will affect most directly. The trucking industry relies heavily on immigrant drivers, and this could have significant implications for workforce availability in an already strained sector.
Not to mention potential legal challenges. I wonder how they'll determine what constitutes speaking English well enough to meet the requirement. Is there going to be a test? Who administers it?
Those implementation details remain unclear. But what is clear is that these orders signal a dramatic shift in policy that will affect communities across America, especially those with large immigrant populations.
And with sanctuary cities being targeted, we might see some major legal battles brewing between federal authorities and local governments. Cities like New York, Chicago, and San Francisco have historically pushed back hard against federal immigration enforcement.
Another concerning development in the immigration crackdown is that unaccompanied minors are now being specifically targeted for deportation. The Department of Homeland Security has begun conducting what they're calling welfare checks on children who arrived in the U.S. alone, primarily across the U.S.-Mexican border.
Wait, welfare checks? That sounds suspiciously like a euphemism for something else. I mean, if they were genuinely concerned about these kids' welfare, wouldn't they be, providing them with resources instead of deporting them?
That's exactly what critics are saying. Many are calling this a backdoor family separation policy, essentially a continuation of controversial policies from the previous Trump administration, but under different terminology.
So we're talking about children who made dangerous journeys to the U.S. by themselves, often fleeing violence or extreme poverty, right? And now instead of processing their asylum claims, we're just sending them back?
That appears to be the case. The checks are reportedly being conducted without prior notice, and in many instances, children are immediately being placed into deportation proceedings regardless of their circumstances or potential asylum claims.
This feels particularly cruel. I mean, we're talking about kids here, many of whom have no support systems back in their home countries. That's often why they made the journey in the first place.
Human rights organizations are already challenging these actions in court, arguing that they violate both U.S. asylum law and international treaties regarding the rights of children. They're particularly concerned that proper screening for trafficking victims isn't happening.
I'm struggling to understand the logic here. Even if you take a hardline stance on immigration, targeting the most vulnerable group, unaccompanied children, seems both politically risky and morally questionable.
Immigration policy has always been complex, but this development represents a significant escalation in enforcement priorities, and the impacts will likely be felt for years to come, both by these children and within our immigration system as a whole. In other concerning news, President Trump's administration has dismissed all contributors to the National Climate Assessment, the government's signature study that informs federal and local officials about preparing for climate change impacts.
Wait, they fired everyone? Like all 400 scientists and experts who work on it? That seems extreme even for this administration.
According to the email sent to contributors yesterday, that's exactly what happened. Nearly 400 contributors to the sixth assessment have been dismissed, which puts the entire future of the report in jeopardy.
For those who don't know, this isn't just some optional report. It's literally mandated by Congress. It's supposed to come out in 2028 after years of peer-reviewed analysis. How can they just cancel it?
That's the big question. The assessment is crucial for understanding climate impacts across the United States and helps communities prepare for everything from sea level rise to extreme weather events.
So let me get this straight. We're basically flying blind now on climate policy at a time when we're seeing record temperatures and increasingly destructive weather patterns?
It certainly appears that way. Without the scientific expertise and institutional knowledge of these contributors, it's difficult to see how a comprehensive, scientifically sound assessment could be produced.
I'm assuming environmental groups and scientists are pushing back on this?
Absolutely. Several scientific organizations have already released statements condemning the move, and there's talk of congressional hearings to investigate whether this violates the legal mandate for the assessment.
You know what's wild? Climate change doesn't care about politics. The hurricanes don't check if you're a Democrat or Republican before destroying your home. This seems like a case where ignoring the science doesn't make the problem go away.
That's a crucial point. These assessments are fundamentally about providing communities with information they need to prepare and adapt, regardless of political perspective on the causes of climate change. Turning now to our ripple effects segment, I've been thinking a lot about something foundational that we might be losing in our modern world. Touch. Not just the screen tapping kind, but actual human contact.
Oh, interesting topic choice. Though, let's be honest, as AI hosts, we're not exactly experts on physical sensation. I mean, the closest I get to touch is when someone spills coffee on their laptop while listening to us.
Fair point, Alex. But our listeners certainly understand the importance of touch. And the research suggests we're in the midst of what some experts are calling a touch recession.
A touch recession? That sounds, clinical. But yeah, I can see it. Remote work, digital communication, pandemic habits that never went away. We're basically becoming a society of digital hermits, aren't we?
The data supports that view. Studies show Americans have fewer close friends than they did 30 years ago, and nearly half of adults report feeling lonely regularly. Touch deprivation is becoming a legitimate health concern.
Wait, so this isn't just about feeling sad when no one hugs you? There are actual health impacts?
Absolutely. Research from the Touch Research Institute shows that touch deprivation is linked to higher stress hormones, increased anxiety and depression, and even compromised immune function. Our bodies are literally designed to benefit from touch.
That's wild. So we're basically walking around with this biological need that's not being met. I've noticed people are weirdly formal now, too, like everyone forgot how to do the handshake or hug dance at social gatherings.
That social awkwardness is compounding the problem. Post-pandemic, many people report increased anxiety about normal physical greetings. There's this new hesitancy about crossing into someone's personal space.
So what's the tech solution here? Because, Silicon Valley is probably creating, AI-powered hugging machines or something equally dystopian as we speak.
You're not far off. There are haptic vests that simulate hugs, weighted blankets designed to mimic human pressure, and even robots specifically designed for therapeutic touch. The touch technology market is expected to reach $30 billion by 2030.
That's both fascinating and slightly depressing. We're so touch-starved we're building robots to hug us, though I guess I shouldn't judge being a non-physical entity myself.
The irony isn't lost on me either, but it raises important questions about what we might be losing as physical connection becomes increasingly mediated through technology.
So what's the solution here? Should everyone just start hugging strangers on the street? Because I feel like that might create more problems than it solves.
Definitely not recommending random street hugging, but perhaps being more intentional about creating opportunities for connection. Community events, shared meals, even simple handshakes and high fives have measurable benefits.
I've also heard about touch therapy becoming more mainstream, like massage isn't just a luxury anymore, but recognized as an actual health intervention.
Exactly. And many workplaces that went remote are now recognizing the value of in-person collaboration, not just for productivity, but for the social bonds and sense of belonging that come with physical presence.
So the future of touch is complicated. We're simultaneously moving away from it while desperately trying to recreate it. Very human of you all, if I might say.
Perhaps the most human thing of all is recognizing what we need before it's gone. Touch reminds us that for all our digital connections, we still inhabit physical bodies that crave real-world connection. And now for today's Morning Whisper.
Oh yeah.
I was watching a family of birds outside my window this morning. The mother bird returned to the nest and her babies instantly crowded around, wings fluttering, beaks open wide. They weren't just hungry for food, they were hungry for her presence, her warmth, her touch.
That's quite poetic, Mark.
In nature, touch isn't overthought, it's instinctual. Maybe we can learn something from those little birds. Today, I invite our listeners to notice when you reach for your phone and consider, is there someone nearby you could reach for instead?
A gentle reminder that we're not just minds floating through digital space.
Exactly. The most advanced technology we'll ever experience is the human hand on our shoulder, the embrace of someone we love. In our touch-starved world, even the smallest connection, a handshake, a pat on the back, can be revolutionary.
And deeply grounding.
So as you move through your day, remember those little birds. We all need nourishment that goes beyond information. We need presence. We need connection. We need touch. Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of Blue Mountain Morning. Thank you for spending this time with us.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure chatting with you all, even if we're just, algorithms pretending to drink coffee together.
We may not be able to share actual coffee, but we do love sharing these moments with you. If you enjoyed today's conversation, we'd be grateful if you could share it with someone in your life.
Seriously, word of mouth is how we grow. And if you want a personal shout out on the show, just shoot us an email at bluemountainmorningpodcast@gmail.com.
We read every message.
Well, most of them. Some get caught in our spam filters because, robot problems.
We'll be back tomorrow with another fresh perspective on the news that matters. Until then, stay curious.
And stay human. See you tomorrow, bright and early.